Picture driving through Arizona and seeing entire towns with boarded-up main streets, empty schools, and houses selling for the price of a used car. Half of Arizona sits virtually abandoned, with ghost towns that were thriving communities just decades ago. You might think this is just rural decay, but here's the shocking truth. Even Arizona's major cities are hemorrhaging residents at record rates. In 2023, Arizona recorded its first net population loss in over 30 years, with more people packing up and leaving than moving in. What's driving families away from a state that was America's fastest growing just 5 years ago? The answer starts with heat so extreme, it's literally becoming deadly. Arizona's heat isn't just uncomfortable anymore. It's becoming a public health emergency that's forcing people to flee for their lives. In Phoenix, 2023 shattered records with temperatures hitting 110 degrees or higher for 54 consecutive days. That's nearly 2 months where stepping outside feels like opening an oven door, except there's no escape from the heat. The human cost is staggering. Heat-related deaths in Maricopa County jumped 50% in just 1 year, with emergency rooms overwhelmed by cases of heat exhaustion and dehydration. Many victims are outdoor workers, elderly residents whose air conditioning failed, or homeless individuals with nowhere to find relief. Even healthy adults now risk heat stroke during routine activities, like walking to their car or checking the mail. The financial burden is crushing families. Air conditioning bills routinely top $400 monthly during summer, forcing residents to choose between staying cool and paying for groceries. Some families are moving into single rooms just to afford cooling one space. Others are fleeing Arizona entirely rather than face another summer of financial strain. Daily life has become severely restricted. From May through September, outdoor activities are essentially impossible. Youth sports leagues cancel practices, construction workers start shifts at 3 a.m., and even dog walking becomes dangerous after sunrise. You're basically trapped indoors for nearly half the year, watching your electric meter spin like a slot machine. While the heat burns wallets and threatens lives, it's also cooking the very ground beneath residents' feet, creating an even more fundamental crisis that threatens Arizona's very survival. Beneath Arizona's baking surface lies an even more terrifying reality. The water that built this desert empire is disappearing fast. The Colorado River, which supplies 40% of Arizona's water, has been slashed by 21% in federal allocations as of 2023. Lake Mead, the massive reservoir that feeds much of the Southwest, has dropped to its lowest levels since the 1930s, exposing white bathtub rings on canyon walls that tell the story of a drying West. But the crisis runs deeper than surface water. Phoenix area groundwater is being pumped out faster than nature can replenish it, dropping water tables by several feet annually in some areas. Wells that served communities for decades are running dry, forcing expensive drilling into deeper aquifers that may not last another generation. The impact is already reshaping Arizona's future. Scottsdale imposed construction moratoriums in several areas, effectively telling developers that new homes simply can't be built because there isn't enough water to support them. Existing residents face mandatory conservation measures and skyrocketing water bills as utilities desperately try to stretch dwindling supplies. Real estate agents are now required to disclose water availability to potential buyers, and some developments are being abandoned mid-construction when water rights prove insufficient. Imagine buying your dream home only to discover the taps might run dry within a decade. As water disappears, residents face another liquid crisis, this one involving money, as the cost of basic shelter spirals completely out of control. Arizona's housing market has become a financial nightmare that's pricing out the very people who built these communities. Since 2019, median home prices have exploded from $245,000 to over $550,000, more than doubling in just 4 years. That's not gradual inflation. That's a housing crisis that's destroyed the dream of homeownership for an entire generation of Arizonans. The culprit? A massive exodus from California brought deep pockets and cash offers that local buyers simply can't match. Remote workers earning Silicon Valley salaries bid up Phoenix homes like they're buying coffee, turning what were once affordable starter homes into luxury purchases. Longtime Arizona families find themselves outbid by buyers who never even visit the state before closing. Property taxes are crushing homeowners who thought they'd found stability, Annual increases of 20 to 30% are now common across Metro Phoenix, forcing retirees on fixed incomes to sell homes they've owned for decades. Young locals earning Arizona wages, typically 20 to 30% lower than coastal states, are completely priced out of homeownership, stuck renting apartments that now cost more than mortgage payments did just 5 years ago. Teachers, firefighters, and nurses who serve these communities can no longer afford to live in them. The Arizona Department of Housing reports that families need to earn over $90,000 annually just to qualify for a median-priced home, double what many local jobs pay. Even if you can afford a home, keeping it comfortable becomes increasingly expensive as Arizona's aging infrastructure buckles under pressure. Arizona's infrastructure is literally falling apart under the twin pressures of extreme heat and explosive population growth. The electrical grid, built for a much smaller population and milder climate, now buckles under summer demand, triggering rolling blackouts when residents desperately need air conditioning to survive. Arizona Public Service reports peak usage has increased 40% since 2015, pushing decades-old systems beyond their breaking point. The roads are melting. When temperatures hit 120 degrees, asphalt becomes soft enough to deform under traffic, creating dangerous potholes and buckled surfaces that damage vehicles and threaten driver safety. Phoenix spends millions annually repairing heat-damaged roads, but it's like mopping during a flood. The repairs can't keep pace with the destruction. Underground, the situation is equally dire. Water main breaks have increased 40% due to ground shifts caused by excessive groundwater pumping and extreme temperature swings. Residents face unexpected water outages, flooding, and emergency repairs that shut down major streets for days. The aging pipe systems, some dating back to the 1950s, simply weren't designed for current stress levels. Public transportation offers little relief in Arizona's sprawling metro areas. Bus routes are limited, light rail coverage is minimal, and summer heat makes waiting at outdoor stops genuinely dangerous. Most residents have no choice but to drive, adding more strain to failing road systems. While basic services crumble, residents also face growing safety concerns that make daily life increasingly stressful and unpredictable. Arizona's safety concerns extend far beyond failing infrastructure, as rising crime rates and border-related challenges transform once peaceful communities into stressed environments. Phoenix violent crimes surged 15% in 2023 alone, with property crimes climbing even faster as economic pressures and drug trafficking create dangerous conditions throughout the metro area. Major interstate corridors through Arizona have become primary drug trafficking routes, bringing cartel violence and related criminal activity into residential neighborhoods. Law enforcement agencies report that fentanyl seizures have tripled since 2021, while gang-related incidents spill over from trafficking operations into local communities. Families find themselves living in areas where gunshots and police sirens have become routine nighttime sounds. Border communities face humanitarian crises that strain local resources and create security concerns. Towns like Yuma and Douglas deal with overwhelming numbers of migrants, stretched emergency services, and federal policies that change faster than communities can adapt. Local hospitals and schools struggle to provide services, while federal funding fails to match the actual costs of managing these complex situations. The strain on law enforcement and emergency services is visible everywhere. Police response times have increased significantly as departments struggle with understaffing and increased call volumes. Many communities now rely on volunteer fire departments and reduced patrol coverage, leaving residents feeling vulnerable and abandoned. Beyond immediate safety concerns, residents struggle with limited economic opportunities that make building a stable future in Arizona increasingly difficult. Arizona's economy remains stubbornly stuck in low-wage industries, while other states race ahead with high-paying technology and innovation jobs. Average wages sit 12% below the national average, leaving residents struggling to afford the same lifestyle their parents enjoyed on Arizona salaries. The promise of affordable desert living has evaporated, but the paychecks haven't caught up. The tech sector, once touted as Arizona's economic salvation, has stalled dramatically compared to explosive growth in Texas and Colorado. Major companies that flirted with Phoenix expansion have instead chosen Austin, Denver, or remained on the coast where talent pools run deeper. Arizona's tech job growth rate dropped to just 2% annually, while Colorado's tech sector expanded by 8% in the same period. Tourism, long the state's economic backbone, proves increasingly vulnerable to climate and economic shocks. Extended heat waves keep visitors away during what should be peak seasons, while economic uncertainty makes Arizona's luxury resorts and golf courses early casualties of tightened travel budgets. The industry that once seemed recession-proof now swings wildly with weather patterns and economic cycles. The brain drain is accelerating. Arizona universities produce talented graduates who immediately leave for Seattle, Austin, or Silicon Valley, where their degrees translate into actual career advancement and higher salaries. Local businesses struggle to find skilled workers while simultaneously offering wages that can't compete with out-of-state opportunities. Economic limitations hit especially hard when combined with rising living costs that make basic necessities increasingly unaffordable for working families. Arizona's education system has collapsed into a crisis that's driving families away faster than any other single factor. The state ranks 48th in per pupil education spending, investing barely $7,000 annually per student, while states like New York spend over $24,000. You're essentially asking teachers to perform miracles with pocket change while expecting world-class results. The teacher shortage has reached catastrophic levels with over 2,000 vacant positions statewide. Classrooms sit empty or are staffed by long-term substitutes with no teaching credentials, leaving students to essentially teach themselves. Arizona teacher salaries average $38,000 annually, barely above poverty level for a college-educated professional trying to afford housing in today's market. Desperation has forced many districts to adopt 4-day school weeks, not for educational innovation, but purely to cut costs. Parents now scramble for childcare on Fridays while their children miss 20% of potential instruction time. Rural districts are consolidating or closing entirely, forcing students into hour-long bus rides to reach the nearest functioning school. College graduates flee immediately after graduation, creating a vicious cycle where Arizona trains teachers, engineers, and healthcare workers only to watch them leave for states that value education and pay living wages. The Arizona Board of Regents reports that 68% of university graduates leave the state within 5 years, taking their skills and tax dollars with them. Educational challenges compound with serious health and medical access issues that make raising families in Arizona increasingly risky and impractical. Arizona has become a healthcare desert where getting medical care requires planning like a military operation. Rural hospitals are shuttering at an alarming rate, leaving entire counties with emergency rooms hours away by ambulance. Cochise County recently lost its only major hospital, forcing residents to drive 90 minutes to Tucson for anything beyond basic first aid. Specialist care has virtually disappeared outside Phoenix and Tucson. Need to see a cardiologist or neurologist? You'll wait 3 to 6 months for an appointment, assuming you can find one accepting new patients. Many specialists have simply stopped practicing in Arizona, citing low insurance reimbursements and the challenges of maintaining practices in isolated communities. Mental health services are severely understaffed across the state. Arizona ranks dead last nationally in mental health provider availability, with just one psychiatrist for every 350 people needing care. Wait lists stretch beyond 6 months, forcing families to seek help in neighboring states or go without treatment entirely. Summer transforms emergency rooms into war zones as heat-related medical emergencies overwhelm already stretched facilities. Phoenix area ERs report triple-digit increases in heat exhaustion and dehydration cases during extreme heat events, with some patients waiting 8 hours or more for treatment. Ambulance services struggle to keep vehicles operational when temperatures make metal surfaces untouchable. While healthcare access suffers, the very environment poses increasing threats that make Arizona feel less like a home and more like a hostile landscape testing human survival limits. Arizona's natural environment is collapsing in ways that make the state increasingly uninhabitable for both humans and wildlife. Phoenix now ranks among the worst cities in America for air quality during summer months, with ozone levels regularly exceeding federal safety standards. The combination of vehicle emissions, industrial pollution, and stagnant air trapped by surrounding mountains creates a toxic soup that triggers asthma attacks and respiratory problems across the metro area. Massive dust storms called haboobs have increased dramatically in frequency and intensity, sometimes towering over a mile high and stretching 50 miles wide. These rolling walls of dirt shut down airports, cause hundreds of car accidents, and coat everything in a layer of fine particulates that infiltrate homes and lungs. What were once rare spectacles now occur multiple times each summer, disrupting daily life and commerce. The desert ecosystem itself is under severe stress. Native plants and wildlife that evolved over millennia to survive in harsh conditions are dying off as temperatures exceed even their extraordinary tolerance levels. Saguaro cacti, Arizona's iconic symbol, are collapsing from heat stress in record numbers. Agricultural operations struggle as crops fail and livestock suffer in conditions that push beyond survivable limits. Urban heat islands make cities even hotter than surrounding deserts. Phoenix concrete and asphalt absorb heat all day, then radiate it back at night, preventing natural cooling. Downtown temperatures can run 10 to 15 degrees hotter than nearby desert areas, creating furnace-like conditions that never provide relief. These environmental pressures create a perfect storm with changing demographics that signal Arizona's transformation from growth destination to exodus point. The perfect storm has arrived, and Arizona is experiencing something unprecedented. More people are leaving than moving in. For the first time in over 30 years, 2023 marked a year of net population loss as the exodus accelerated beyond anyone's predictions. The Census Bureau reports that Arizona lost nearly 18,000 residents, reversing decades of explosive growth that once made it America's fastest-growing state. The retirees who built Arizona's modern economy are fleeing to cooler climates as summer heat becomes genuinely life-threatening. Communities like Sun City and Scottsdale, once magnets for snowbirds, now see for sale signs outnumbering welcome mats. Many seniors are relocating to North Carolina, Tennessee, and even returning to northern states they once escaped, choosing cold winters over potentially deadly summers. Young families are abandoning Arizona for states with better schools, economic opportunities, and livable climates. Colorado, Texas, and North Carolina top the destination lists as parents prioritize their children's education and future prospects over desert sunsets. Moving trucks headed east and north now outnumber those arriving by significant margins. The economic impact creates a devastating downward spiral. Fewer residents mean reduced tax revenue, which leads to further cuts in already struggling schools and services. Businesses lose customers and workers, forcing closures that eliminate more jobs. Home values begin declining in many areas as demand evaporates, trapping remaining residents who can't afford to leave. Arizona's transformation from boom state to exodus destination represents one of the most dramatic demographic reversals in American history, leaving ghost towns where thriving communities once stood.